back in 2007, when I started my coaching business, I was a generalist, and that is how my website and all my marketing reflected my position. In theory, one day I could be working with a large corporate and the next day a small startup. But guess what? I didn't have a compelling story to tell the large corporate because I didn't have loads of large corporate experience. So those type of companies were hard to win. And if I told a small startup that I also worked with large corporates, then they would think that I was not a good fit for them because I wouldn't understand them. So I was in a lose-lose position. By being a generalist, I actually precluded myself from winning business whilst running the belief that if I was niched, I narrowed the amount of new business opportunities I could win. Crazy thinking in hindsight. So after lots of soul searching, I took what felt like a really brave decision and niched my business. Now for me, choosing the niche was not that difficult because I'd lived in the marketing agency world for the last 15 years and had run my own agency. So it was something that I was really passionate about and also knew an awful lot about. The reason why I felt like it was a big decision to make was because I was running the mindset of, if I focus just on the marketing agency sector, what about all those other opportunities that I could possibly win? But with some soul searching and honest reflection, I realised that as a generalist, I wasn't winning those type of clients. So what harm could it do by going niche? Now, it was the best decision I ever made. And within 6 months, I had literally tripled my profits and was winning business that I really understood and could do a fantastic job for. And also, I really enjoyed the work. Now, fast forward 13 years of coaching in this niche, and I have other really key learnings about being a niche player that I want to share with you in this video today. So first of all, showing up as a niche agency doesn't preclude you from taking on opportunities outside of that niche. You just don't market and sell yourself to those other areas, but instead you make a decision on a case-by-case basis based on fit, and if you feel you can do a good job for this company outside of your niche and that there's a good cultural match. Secondly, a niche business will always be able to charge more than a generalist one because they're seen as a deeper subject matter experts. They win business based on their expertise, not because they are cheaper or promise huge levels of service, i.e. over-servicing. Next, as a niched agency, you're seen as experts and therefore you can build a consultative relationship with your clients. So you're seen much less as a commoditized service, and this results in longer, deeper relationships and higher fees. Now, when you have a chosen niche, it doesn't mean that you're committed to that niche forevermore. In fact, it's a smart move to start really niched and then broaden out rather than starting broad and trying to narrow down. So I appreciate that it was easy for me to make that decision on what niche to follow, but I also know through my experience of working with over 250 agencies that sometimes choosing a niche can be challenging and confusing, and therefore I want you to consider 3 core questions when researching the one niche that you might possibly follow. So let's just look at them. Number 1, which part of your agency is most profitable? Now you can cut this vertically by market sector or horizontally by the type of work you do. So if today you're a full service marketing agency, it may be that you decide to focus on digital services or your core design skills. Number 2, what type of customer do you get the best results for? Is it the small business? Is it the larger business? And what sectors do they work in? And lastly, number 3, what kind of client do you really enjoy working on? This one is really important because we always do our best work when we enjoy working with a client and we're passionate about the results that we deliver. Once you have made this decision, you need to commit all of your marketing efforts to this niche in all of your outward communications so that you show up as an expert in this sector. And that means from the very first words on your website, they need to be clear about your niche and quickly show that niche that you understand the unique challenges they face, and then you show how you can solve them. All your other marketing communications need to really drill into this niche. And of course, the events and networking that you might go to need to be focused around this niche. It always amazes me to hear of people who, for example, are specialists in packaging design, going to a networking event where they meet accountants, banks, personal trainers and hairdressers. They might have some great conversations, but they're not talking to their target customer. One of the key advantages of being in a well understood niche is that you can define and understand your customer avatars or your customer personas really clearly. And if you can do that, it ensures that you are speaking their language because you really understand the challenges they face and the transformations that they're looking for when they're buying your product or your service. So let me give you another example, and that is coffee. I don't know about you, but I cannot start my day without a good cup of coffee, and I absolutely love my coffee machine. Now, I live in the wonderful seaside town of Brighton in the UK, where you cannot go more than 100 yards without seeing a coffee shop. And in my 8 years of living here, there has been many coffee shops come and go, and indeed I've even worked with one, which is a good example of me taking on a client slightly outside of my niche, but one that I felt I could help. Trust me, it's really hard for a coffee shop to be successful and to find something that differentiates themselves and creates a clear niche. And I believe the reason why so few coffee shops are successful is precisely because they're unable to establish a clear niche. So what they do is they broaden out and offer more and more and more, but this doesn't work. Now, one of the exceptions to this is the Small Batch Coffee Company. They were formed in 2007 when friends Alan Tomlins and Brad Jacobson left their jobs as chefs and started a wholesale micro roaster in Brighton. When they launched their company, Small Batch was just a small scale business aimed at roasting small batches of high quality coffee. After a couple of years, they opened their first few coffee shops, and then they slowly expanded the company's wholesale and resale business. Today, Small Batch is a highly successful coffee seller which supplies high quality, highly sourced coffee to cafes and restaurants all across the south of England. They sell their coffee online for retail customers, and they've expanded their stores to around 7 coffee outlets. Why have they been so successful when so many other coffee shops have quickly fallen by the wayside? It's because from really early on they were very clear about their niche, which was home roasted high quality coffee. Notice how they started really niched and then they grew into complementary niches as they proved to be successful. And that's unlike many other coffee shops who start out as generalists and they look like everyone else and ultimately they fail. For Small Batch, it's all about the quality of the coffee. If you want a good cup of coffee, you go to Small Batch. Now, they operate like you and I in very competitive market spaces. And the more competitive space you are in, the more competition is fighting for the same few customers. So if you can find a way to look slightly different by niching your agency, then suddenly you find yourself with less competitors and with customers who quickly identify you as the ideal partner.